Hello, and welcome to another episode of Court-to-Court with the Esquire coach. We have an exciting episode for you today as we have Aisha Foy joining us today. Aisha is a former Division I women's college basketball player and former NCAA Women of the Year nominee. She is the creator of Major NIL Success, a NIL consulting platform where she helps college athletes develop a game plan to maximize their brand potential and position themselves for NIL success. She is also the author of Success is My Major, a book aimed at assisting ambitious individuals embrace the process of turning dreams into reality. Aisha is also the creator of Major NIL Success Bootcamp, where she provides a wealth of information to current and prospective college athletes and their parents on NIL and the current college athletics landscape. We are excited to have you here today. Hello, Aisha, and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate that. Appreciate you having me on.
Definitely. So if you would like to just give us maybe a little bit more about yourself that wasn't highlighted in the bio.
You pretty much explained, everything that I have going on. I'm a student athlete that wanted more. And then I dove into personal branding and understanding myself outside my sport. And in that process, that led me to, the career path that I'm on and, all the things that you just mentioned. But it was really the core of what I do is about helping student athletes see themselves as more. And that's where it all stemmed from me.
That's awesome. So while you were in college, I believe NIL was being heavily discussed and beginning to be apparent that it was something that was gonna come into fruition. So did it take effect while you were still in college?
No, it didn't. And it's funny because I was in college in 2016. That's when I graduated. And it's funny because I actually got an NIL violation when I was a student athlete. And I shot a video, which it looked like it could have been a commercial for my trainer. And I was doing it for like motivational purposes and just to remember the grind and things like that. But I got a call from compliance and they were saying, hey, you need to take this down. This is a violation of NIL. And yeah, so I like to say that story because like I've been doing this for a long time, even before it was legalized. And and yeah, that happened.
Wow. So how is that for you now, like viewing that situation now with the things that college athletes are allowed to do?
It's funny because I take it more in a sense of that's how long I've been thinking about branding and participating in NIL activities. Um, but I just think it's funny. I'm like, I've been doing this, before NIL was a thing, and it's something that you don't think about. It's just monetary gains, right? Like I didn't put that video out for any type of monetary thing. I actually paid for the trainer and I paid for the video, right? So it was just about building a brand and having visuals to showcase who you are in your journey. And that's what, that's what I'm about. That's what I teach. So it's just more about documenting the journey than let me just get some money off of this.
Yeah, well, I'm sure in hindsight that situation has prepared you for, what you're doing today and prepared you to be able to help college athletes appreciate the opportunities that they now have. So that kind of dovetails into my next question, was just what led you to write your book, Success is My Major?
Yeah, when I was a student athlete, I kind of went through a transformational process, and I feel as though I feel like it's the same process that athletes are going through now with NIL. Like you become older, you become not older, you become more mature, you become business oriented. You start seeing yourself outside of your sport, and it was about a year and a half, 2 years of just learning about myself, learning about motivation, learning about how to succeed, success principles, and like it really changed my life, like legit changed my life. And I wanted to share the principles that I was learning. And to this day, there are principles that I live by. And I was studying successful people, and when I applied these principles, they worked. And they changed my life and helped me really put me on the path that I'm on now. So I just wanted to share the lessons that I learned as a student athlete and really teach athletes that you can use this to really be successful way beyond your sport.
So now fast forward to what you're doing now. What led you to create Major NIL Success?
So I've always been a big learner, right? Like a big part of who I am right now is because of attending conferences, attending master classes, investing in programs, investing in coaching. So that's something that I wanted to do for others. And when the NIL law passed, I was the director of recruiting at Kentucky, and I understood it right away, branding yourself, positioning yourself for deals, and then pitching yourself to brands. So I understood the concept really well, and I was already about like personal branding. That was kind of um my recruiting approach was helping their coaches build their personal brand so we can attract talent to Kentucky. So when the law passed and it was this big thing, all of the student athletes that we would meet with, like they had no idea of what to do. And it was a few athletes that really, knew how to do it. And, that was Raekwon, who you've interviewed and who I've interviewed, and you listen to what they've done to succeed, and it's really a straightforward path. Like you build your brand, you reach out to companies, you build your audience, you you make deals with companies, you know what I'm saying? So I really thought it was a teachable process. So, because of what building a brand did for me in my life, I wanted to make sure that athletes knew how they could take advantage of this opportunity. So I thought the best way of doing that was creating curriculum and hosting events where anybody can access and learn how they can maximize the opportunity.
Which dovetails well to my next question, which is what steps would you say an athlete should take who is looking to take advantage of NIL opportunities and build a brand?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I would say is, well, sit down with yourself and think about like, what do you want your legacy to be? And a lot of people go straight to the creativity part, like social media, what can I create? But like you need to think about what do you want to even stand for? And what story do you want to tell? Once you finish playing your sport, what do you want people to remember about you? Is a lot about self-awareness. Um, Savonia, who was on the boot camp, like that was all our conversation was about. And she's an attorney like yourself, and we were talking about self-awareness. And a majority of the people that I talk to who are in the NIL space talk about just understanding yourself. So it's something that, and I say that to say, it's something that you can't get around. And um so many people want to skip that part, and that's
Yeah.
just a huge part of just that self-awareness piece, knowing what you want to represent. And then the next thing is like building your brand story. How are you going to tell that story? Are you going to tell it in the community, or are you going to tell it on social media? How are you going to build that audience, and how are you going to cater to that audience and really build it up? And then it's really after that, reaching out to companies and seeing how you want to monetize the brand that you've built.
Yeah, you said something that really piqued my interest because I actually, I'm later one of my questions is like how does social media play a role? But before we get there, you said you have to decide if you want to build your brand or tell your story on social media or in the community. I think that the social media piece is heavily talked about, which we will touch on it, but how would an athlete go about building their brand with the community as you said, and maybe for someone who doesn't really like social media, right? And it's hard for them to do that. What are some other ways that they can accomplish that same goal?
Yeah, so I mean, in college athletics, right? And I'm in the Norfolk area, so I see ODU, right? And I was also at Kentucky, so I see the community pulls together in two completely different levels, right? But still on Saturdays, everybody's trying to figure out when the football game is and how they can surround their day around the football game, right? So you have community impact, and let's say at a SEC school is a crowd of 50,000 people, and let's say at a ODU is a crowd of 25,000, maybe 30,000 people who are watching, right? That number is big to a company. So you may not have 30,000 followers or 50,000 followers on social media, but you have 50,000 people or 30,000 people or 10,000 people lining up to come to your game. So you do have that influence in the community. It's easy for a company, a national brand, to recognize you if you have a lot of social media following, because influencer marketing is already a thing, right? You got a lot of followers, you could always make money on social media. But the community aspect of it, you can qualify your supporters like right then and there. Like I went to the ODU game the other day, and it's they tailgating and people online, and like all of these eyeballs are coming to see the football team. Um and especially if you are a player that people look forward to watching, and that those eyeballs can be qualified in the same way that um, your followers can be qualified, you know. But it does take work. It's not just about going to the game. Like, how do you interact with the fan base? Do fans actually like you? If you was to have a meet and greet, right, in a community, like say you had a meet and greet at a Buffalo Wild Wings, right? Buffalo Wild Wings need that same customer base that just left your game, right? So if you say, hey, Monarch Nation, I'm heading to Buffalo Wild Wings, come meet me there, how many people will show up? Right. And you don't have to have a lot of followers for that to happen. Like if you have 200 people come up, that's a lot of people in the community, right? But on social media, 200, that's not a big number. So, just athletes understanding that you have a lot of impact in the community because you see those people. They're actually coming to you. They're wearing your stuff. So being a personality, being something that people can look forward to, people can want to interact with, that could get you NIL deals as well.
Yeah, thank you. Because I think that gets to the more personable side of the person more so than social media does too. And I think it'll even help the athlete identify that self awareness part that you were talking about in the beginning. So just to stay on the topic of comparing like community engagement versus social media engagement, or maybe now you could talk about how an athlete can use social media effectively in the NIL space.
Yeah, I mean, those first two steps that we talked about are important. But then once you figure out the story that you want to tell, like social media is just a conversation with the public. All right. So if you're trying to engage the public, what are you talking to them about, right? If you're talking to your fan base, like thanking them for coming to the game, that seems simple, but a lot of athletes don't do that. You know what I'm saying? But like that can go a long way. Um, So understanding the story that you want to tell. One thing I tell athletes is if someone came to your game or somebody was a fan of you because of your athletic ability or because they came to a game and seen you play, how would you draw them into being a fan of you as a person? You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, I was just in a meeting with a quarterback, so it's fresh on my mind. So I'm like, as a quarterback, you are a confident person. You are a leader of men. You have all these other interests, right? Those are things, you're a man of faith, you're a family man. Like these are very good qualities of a person, very good qualities of a man. So like, how can you draw people from coming to your game and then maybe the next time they see they own your social media page or they know more about you and like, I actually really like him. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, he's a quarterback. I went to his game, but I actually like him. I want to invest in him. I want to invest in learning about his journey. So, um, communicating your story, your journey with the public, and then, the creativity. People get caught up in like being creative and making the videos go viral. Like, don't even worry about that. You need to have a relationship with the public. And then as that relationship get better, you can make it fancy. But it could be as simple as thanking the fans after the game, you know?
Right, yeah. Yeah, you got to start to build that relationship and present yourself as somebody who's approachable, who fans want to engage with. And that I can definitely see how that'll go a long way for you. So say an athlete finally like gets a deal or gets someone hits them up in their DMs, I want you to do XYZ NIL deal. Here's what I want. I want you to post for me maybe so many times on X social media platform. How do you help athletes, or how should athletes navigate that process?
Yeah, and that's very depending on that. A lot of variables depend on that. Like how much is the company paying, right? Or what's the deal? Is it $10,000 or is it $100 gift card? You know, and so you base your work just like a job, right? You kind of base your work or what you're willing to do off of what the variable is, right? So if a company is gonna pay you $10,000 and they want you to post 3 videos, like that's nothing, But if a company is not just sending you product and they want you to post 3 videos, depending on the value of the product, right? That could be nothing as well. But that could be a lot of work. So I would say it all depends on what you see the value of that activity is or what that deal is. And um yeah, so like it really depends on a bunch of different variables. Um, you wanna, and I will say this, and this may contradict what I just said. When you first getting started, you want to treat every opportunity like it's a $100,000 deal, right? Because at the same time, that's getting you practice for getting that big deal that you want later. So you want to like, plan it out, see what's feasible for you, and then also like you want to take it seriously as well because that could lead to another deal.
So maybe what are 3 questions or 3 points that an athlete should be thinking about as they are considering a deal?
Do I really use this product? And even if you don't use the product, that doesn't mean you can't do the deal. Um, but do I really use this product? What can I genuinely say about the product? And how can I showcase this product in my current lifestyle? Because brands want to see what's called like product placement, right? And that's not a term that the everyday person is familiar with, but that's like if I had a Gatorade and I said it right here, and I'm like, yeah, I'm just drinking my Gatorade, talk to the Esquire coach, like that's product placement, but
Hmm.
I could have told Gatorade that I'm doing this podcast and I'm gonna, put that in there. So um so yeah, so it say a question again.
I'll just say what were three like things or questions that athletes should be thinking about as they consider NIL deals.
Okay, I was talking about lifestyle.
Yeah.
So like how can you insert a product into your lifestyle to make it natural? So do I really use this product? How can I genuinely give my opinion about the product? And then how can I insert this product into my lifestyle genuinely?
Yeah, I definitely think that goes to the authenticity. I often tell athletes that you want to make sure that anything that you're doing is going to be something that aligns with you, so that it's not forced or like awkward to do it and work with that company. So we're kind of talking a lot about NIL in the collegiate space, but several states allow high school NIL. We just had the big news yesterday from North Carolina, where they're gonna allow high school NIL. So could you speak to maybe how the NIL market differs for high school athletes versus college athletes?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest difference is the community that you serve, right? So if I'm a athlete at the college level and my community is either that fan base or my audience, I'll say my audience is the fan base of that school. And then also if I'm playing on TV, you know what I'm saying? Like what type of TV I get, right? If I'm in high school, my market is um my community, the city that I live in, right? And if I'm a high recruit, then maybe my market may be national. But as far as the process, like it's really the same process. It's just what eyes are you? What eyes are you? What eyes are on you? Right. And I think high school student athletes are not really taking advantage of it because high school athletes have a lot of local influence. And it's local influence that they probably will never have again, even when they do go play in college. Right. So it's really the difference is the market, right? If I go to Princess Anne High School, right, that's where I went to school at. I could be talking to every company in Virginia Beach. And because I can be the hottest thing in Virginia Beach on a Friday night if I'm a basketball player or a Friday night if I'm a football player, right? Um, so I actually think you have more local influence as a high school student.
Yeah, so that community piece would be even bigger or potential to be even greater for a high school student, maybe more so than the social media aspect.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a
So
good.
how would your advice, like I asked you, like, the 3 things that a college athlete should be thinking about. How would your advice differ from that aspect for a high school athlete to land an NIL deal versus a college athlete?
The difference would be like what, and I mean, I would say this to to a college student athlete as well, but what companies are near your school? Like what companies are walking distance from your school? What things are going on locally that people are marketing? And the average person doesn't really pay attention to marketing until they're kind of prompted to do so. But there are so many different, like, who the audience that come to your games, or the audience that listen to the news, or that listen to um the radio or in the newspaper. They look at the newspaper. That's your audience. So the advice would pretty much be the same, except just understanding that you can actually be a bigger deal in high school than you are in college. And like, I know an athlete right now that, she's the hottest thing in Virginia Beach right now. And when she get to college, I mean, she probably go to Power 5 school, but she may not be top 10. She may not be the number one player in the country, but she's number one player in the state. You know what I'm saying? So, people just not realizing that you get paid from companies because of your influence, right? So you can collect a lot of NIL opportunity and a lot of NIL money as a high school student, because you just the influence is felt, heard about. Like, you can see and touch the influence. Like, sometimes it's hard to qualify. Why would a company pay a student athlete $100,000 if they don't have a big social media following? But you can kind of see the company can see their money in the community if I pay $100,000 or $1,000 a month to a student athlete out of my marketing budget, when I know they are all eyes of the community is on them, you know?
Yeah, because the opportunity is definitely there for that company in that locale. Everything doesn't have to be national. There's a lot of money to be made regionally, and within your own cities. And I think too that just brings up the point that I want to make. We say NIL, we say name, image, and likeness, and I think that athletes need to realize that that is what they're paying you for. They're paying you for the influence that they see that your name, your image, your likeness carries. That is the power. That's why they want to work with you. That's why, um, you know, college athletes, rights advocate work so hard to have the rules changed so that you could take advantage of those opportunities. So now I want to switch gears and talk about your major NIL success boot camp, which I had the wonderful opportunity to be a part of over the summer. I just want you to tell our listeners about the boot camp and some reasons why they may want to consider attending in the future.
Yeah, so one thing I think that people associate NIL with needing representation or needing an agent, when really NIL should be, I need education. So I wanted to create a opportunity where you could be a part of basically a summit, and you can hear from the best of the best to understand, so you can get a good understanding of what NIL is and how you can take advantage of it. So I brought in some amazing guests. You were one of them. And Derek Coles from the NCAA. I had Lauren Walsh talking about pitching. So many different people. I can't. Sam Green talking about content, like a lot of different uh, people. I had an agent talking about the way that she pitches her athletes to brands and how she makes sure that the brands align with them. So it was just all different avenues. Financial advisor, like everything when it comes to NILs, I had an expert to come speak about that topic. So, I think education is important. And in the same way you educate yourself on whatever you're trying to do before you actually do it, it was just an opportunity where parents, athletes, coaches can get a really good understanding of all different aspects of NIL.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Education is key. As you navigate this NIL space. So I have one final question, and it's something that I see you speak on a lot, and I think your perspective on it is really great. It's something that my listeners should hear, and that's like NIL from the perspective of recruiting. I often hear you say not to choose a school based on NIL. So I won't give too much of what you say. I'll let you say that and explain why that is the case.
Yeah, I could probably answer this question for hours. But like, the dynamic of your experience doesn't change, right? Like, yeah, maybe a check can make you a little bit more happier, but you still got to answer to those coaches every day. You still got to deal with those teammates, your teammates at school every day. So, like, I never advise athletes or parents to choose a school based off of NIL collective check, right? Because you can generate NIL at any school, if your brand is strong enough. But fit is important because these are relationships that you're gonna need, for the rest of your life, right? Don't just think about my playing time. Think about the relationships that I need to get somebody to help me get a job and things like that. So, fit is important. And as a recruiter and as somebody that used to be on a staff, like I know how when you go to college, you need support. You need good people around you. So I always say like choose a school based off of fit, and you can have some NIL factors, fan base, support, those things are important. But I think it's silly to choose your school based off of a couple $1,000s, because that'll be the difference. Like you're either a Power Five level player, a mid-major player, a Division 2 player, a low major, like your playing will be the same. Like the NIL opportunity will be the same unless you go from Power Five. If you go from mid-major to Power Five, like which is rare. It could happen, but it's rare. But choose it based on fit because you're making a decision that's gonna impact the rest of your life.
Definitely. Well, there you have it. You see the NIL is a part of your decision, but it shouldn't fully drive your decision, right? It should be a holistic decision based on the best fit for you personally, academically, athletically, and then also as it relates to NIL.
Yeah.
So,
And I'll
you know,
say that too. But it's gonna sound good in recruiting. Like, but it may not even happen. So them coaches, shout out to the coaches. I love my people, but they'll tell you anything to get you to come to their school. You know what I'm saying? So like just you gotta see it from all different aspects of it, not just like you don't want to be bidded on. Like, come on now, you know.
yeah. Yeah, and the other thing is that the landscape keeps changing. So keep that in mind as you make your decisions.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, well, I want to thank you for joining us today. You've given us a wealth of information, so thank you for that. At this time, I would like to give you the opportunity to tell people how they can connect with you and follow you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on the show. You can follow me at Aisha Foy on Twitter and on Instagram. I post videos and just different thoughts, different ideas, and things like that. If you want any information on the upcoming workshop or the boot camp, go to majornilsuccess.com. You can go there and get a workshop downloaded, sent right to you. And you can also join the waiting list for the next boot camp to get information about, when those tickets or when the academy may open back up.
Well, again, thank you for being on the show. This concludes another episode of Court to Court with the Esquire Coach. Thank you guys. See you next time.